everyone, it's Suzanne from Suzy Q Crafts with a new tutorial for you today, which is part 2 of stamping platforms. And it's getting the most out of your stamping platform by making multiple cards in so much less time than you could normally with an acrylic block. So we've got the stamping platform. I've got the Tim Holtz one, but any will do. Now you can use these for the centre of your card. These are geo frames and I've got the die cuts to match those. So you can stamp the frames onto white cardstock with black ink and you can cut those out with your die. Now if you don't have those, what I've also done is cut some black cardstock into 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches and a slightly smaller piece in white cardstock to go in the centre. And that's what we're going to be using today on our cards. I've also got a post-it note which is cut 2.5 by 2.5 and that is to mask off my centre. If you do have those geo frames, you could always use those for masking as well. Now the stamp set we are using is Life is Awesome by Altenew. This is actually a card that I did a while ago and this class was supposed to be live in my local area, but obviously because of this current situation of the virus we can't do that. So this was a request by Caroline Martin to do an online tutorial, so here we go. Now you can get the die set that matches this stamp. I haven't actually used mine yet. And I like to, when I'm storing my stuff, I like to keep the stamp set with the die set so it's easy to get hold of and I know where everything is. So the flowers that we are using is the D's and the A's and also the C. On the back of your stamps you do have this little layering chart, and if you don't get one of those in your stamp set you can also download it online and print it out. You can have all those laminated, keep it in with your stamp set and your dies so that you've got quick easy reference for layering up your stamps. Now I've done a series of these cards in different colour combinations with different greetings and I actually sell them as a gift set. So we've done the blues and the yellows. I also went for the green set which includes the black. This is an alternative blue if you haven't got the one I'm using today. And then we got the new purple. I was quite excited that the purple came out. And then we got this colour that actually turned out to be my favourite, which is kind of a peach coral set. So at the beginning, at the end of this tutorial, you can see some of my cards that I've produced in this way today using those colours. And what I will do was add all those colours under the listing of this YouTube video so you can see everything listed, the stamp set, the colours that I used and which stamps out of that set I used as well. Now I have designed this little grid that goes into my stamping platform. It's 8 by 8 and has quarter inch squares all the way across. And I just leave it in my stamping platform. You can contact me if you'd like one of these, they come laminated. My cardstock is cut 5 by 7 inches. And what I'm doing along the bottom, it's just out of shot, but what I'm doing is I'm lining it up along the 2-inch mark so I know exactly where my cardstock goes each time. And I'm going to place my post-it note without measuring, but kind of into the centre, top and bottom and side to side of my card. And I'm just going to shift that over a bit because I'm not quite happy. Now you don't have to mask off the centre, because we're going to add the black and the white cardstock in the middle with our greeting on. But I just like to mask that off so that I know where my stamps are going to be best placed. So I'm happy with that, popping it back into my stamping platform and starting to peel off some of my stamps. And the first stamp is a D1 and an A1. The D1 is the larger flower, and on your stamping sheet they're all marked out, so D1, D2, D3, D4, etc. So you know which layering set goes with which. The smaller flower is the A. We're going to be using both of those today, nearly all of the leaves and the C1 stamp as well, and a couple of those other C1s. So now everything's ready to go. We're going to start peeling off and layering my stamps where I want them to be. Now what I want them to do is position them around the right way so that they're easier for me to line up on the next layer. So I'm taking the largest petal to the top and I'm just playing around, seeing where I want those stamps to be. Now I'm going to take most of my leaves and I'm going to add those as my little fill-ins. And I'm putting it half on and half off, well, a tiny bit on the post-it note, so that they just tuck behind my greeting. Now I don't think this set stands out as the other sets do, as wow, this is just amazing. But when you start to play with them and create with them, they actually make the most beautiful cards. Out of all the cards I make with the Altenew products, everybody comments on these cards and this set. So I'm just tucking in the C1 stamp there, which is the kind of stem version. Just moving my stamps about until I'm happy that that's going to be the final layout. And the beauty of doing this is that you can create multiple cards so quickly, just by layering your first layer, stamping a batch of cards, changing your colour, and then over and over. When I actually made my first box set of these cards, they lasted about 5 minutes on the market table and they were snapped up and sold straight away. I haven't actually got round to making up another box set yet, but I must do that. I like to sell them as box sets and then just put different greetings in. So you can have a blue one for a sympathy. I've got the wedding one, get well, happy birthday. It's kind of an all occasion gift set in a 5x7 box. It makes a really nice present, or you can keep them in your stash for any events that are coming along that you wasn't expecting. So I'm just arranging my little leaves in between my flowers. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to flip the top over, stick in all my stamps to the other side of my stamping platform. making sure that my cardstock is in place. And I'm using Forest Glade as my green. And I'm going in with my lightest colour, which is the Citrus Burst on the yellow. As I said before, I will put all these colours underneath. And I'm trying to carefully ink up my stamps. Now you can do this in one go if you want to. We're going to do that for the first time. So I'm doing all my leaves in the Forest Glade, and then my two main flowers in my Citrus Burst. Just inking those up. And these are Altenew inks, and they come in shaded sets. You can get these small cube ones, or you can get the larger oval inks. I use the small cube ones because it costs me less money, which means I can buy more colours. Just taking a bit of those green off there onto the flowers. And flipping it over and doing my first stamping section. Now I have some people kind of jump up and down on their stamping platforms to really push it down. There's no need. Just the heel of your hand all over, and if the imprint isn't quite as you wanted, so I'm redoing my yellow just once again to get a better imprint on those. I'm just going to do that C1 stem again as well with my green. You don't need to press down too hard on your stamping platform at all. Now what I'm going to do is flip my card around, so putting it back in that 2-inch position mark at the bottom, but flipping the whole thing around, securing it in place, and then re-inking again. So all over my leaves and my stem with my green, and then the two flowers with my yellow. Now this is a microfiber cloth. I just have those by my side handy, just to wipe off any of the excess ink that's gone onto your flowers or anywhere. And there was just a spot of green that touched the yellow, so I've just taken that off and redoing my yellow. And stamping the other side down. Now that is our basic layout of our card, and each one will be the same. So you're stamping in one area, flipping it round, and then stamping in the other area. So what you can do is take off your post-it note, you get your next piece of cardstock, reposition at the 2-inch mark along the bottom with your magnets, securing it in place. I like to put my post-it note back on. You don't have to. It just helps me see where my stamps are going to go. Now I clean off all of the stamps with my microfiber cloth. And this time I'm going to be using my purple or my lilacs range. And in those we have the soft lilac. Now this time what I did was I did the lilac and then I did the green leaves after that. It's entirely up to you how you would like to do it. You can either ink up the whole lot in one go, or do your flowers and then you do your leaves, or the other way around. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to speed this next bit up for you. It's just running through what I've told you already, but I'm just going to speed it up so you don't get bored of listening to me. Okay, so now what I'm doing is changing stamps. So we've gone for the D2 and the A2. And in the C section it is C3 and C4. Now the C3 doesn't quite fit in between the two next stamps because it's quite a wide flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp those two purple flowers first, and then once on the next round I'm going to stamp those C ones. Now the ink we're using for the purple is Lavender Fields. So I'm securing those down, inking those up. And stamping on top of the ones I've done already. And exactly the same, you flip it round, line it up with your 2 inches along the bottom, and stamp the next section. Now I'm switching over to the yellow one. Now what you can do with these stamps is take out the second step. So you can take out your D2 and you can take out your A2 and you can move on to the next one. So the stamp layer would go D1, D3, D4. And I actually prefer that look, so that's how I did most of the batch of my cards. So I've used A1, A3, A4 and D1, D3, D4. And with the C it was C1, C3 and C4. You don't actually need to do all the layers of the stamp. Mix and match, have a play around, see which layering that you like. Now it takes a bit of patience to layer in that next layer, but once it's all in place you're good to go. You're in the second layer and ploughing your way through that batch of cards. So we've got our D3 in place and we're now putting our A3 in place, and as I did that I managed to knock my D3 out of position, so I've got to go back and put that in. Now the next colour I'm going to be using is Honey Drizzle and then Maple Yellow. I think that's the way round I use them. One's very slightly darker than the other. I'm just relining my D3 one back up. Now, as I said before, that C3 doesn't quite fit in between, so we'll do that on a different layer. So now I'm going to pop my C3 in, and all of the cards are going to have this stamped in the same colour. And it just turns to the right slightly more than you think it does. I'm just looking to the left. I've got my layering guide next to me as well. So I'm just lining that up so that the berries go on the little leaf branches. And I'm using the pale blue to do this one, which is Iceberg. Turning it round, stamping up my other one, and then I'm going to do that again for my purple card as well. So here I'm going to be using my C4, and I'm switching up to Eastern Sky. So I'm just getting that into position. Now luckily you can't see my head in shot with the camera. My camera's above me. It's actually bolted to the cabin ceiling. So I'm looking down over the top of my stamp to line that up. Flicking it round, lining up with our 2-inch mark along the bottom, and doing the same to the other side. And we do exactly the same to our yellow card. So our last step today is stamping up the centrepiece of our card, that little 2.5 by 2.5 inch black cardstock and a slightly smaller white cardstock. And what I'm going to do first of all is just glue that white one on top of that black one. This is just ordinary PVA glue. I'm going to line up with that with the squares on my grid and secure it with my magnet. Now I'm going to use one of the greetings from the You Are Awesome, Life is Awesome set, and that just says thank you. And the other set I've got is the painted butterfly. Now with my card set that I made them with a selection of the different butterflies. I quite like this stamp set. You don't have to get the outline perfectly on, but I've made the butterfly match my main flowers. And I've done 2 different layers. And then my last layer, which is the outline, I've stamped in black. You can also get the die cuts with these butterfly stamps as well. It's on my wish list. Now, these videos were made with the coronavirus lockdown. Normally I teach live classes in my local area, but obviously we're unable to do that at the moment. So we've put our classes online. If anybody would like to make a donation for the classes, you can find the email address for PayPal in the listing comments underneath. It just helps us small businesses keep ticking over for when we can come back to you and continue with our live classes again. So this is my second layer of that little butterfly. And I'm changing to that honey drizzle. So I stamp my first layer in the citrus burst, and then the second layer in my darker one. And finally my outline, which is the Altenew permanent black. Please subscribe to our channel. We've got lots more tutorials online. There's Copic colouring tutorials, we have got Distress Oxide background tutorials. We've got Stamping Platform Part 1, where we use the misty corners with our stamping platform. And please leave your love in the comments so that we know that you're there, we know that you're watching. And you can even make suggestions of what videos that you would like to see us do. So there it is, our little centrepiece, and that's just going to pop into the centre of our 5x7 card. Now you can glue that flat down, or you can pop it into the middle with some silicone. I would just glue that whole 5x7 panel onto the front of a 5x7 card. I will trim it down just very slightly, probably by 1/8 of an inch, just down a little bit. So I've got a little outline in between this and my cardstock. And there's our purple one as well. Thank thank you everybody for watching us today, and hope everybody stays safe and happy crafting.